Okay, we're going to start right at 9:31. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for our first community conversation of 2025. Today, we're going to talk about the budget process for fiscal year 2026. So I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic over to Deputy Director of Finance Services, Gentry Jones.
Good morning. Thank you, Jessica. Good morning, Mayor and Council, members of the public. Good morning. Today's community conversation covers the budget process for fiscal year 2026. So we'll begin with fiscal year 2025 budget. So to begin, the general fund amount that we have is $11,178,807. For CIP, we have an amount of $6,454,097. And our walk, bike, drive safety initiative totals $2,153,830. Next, I'm going to cover fiscal year 2025 CIP projects, or at least some of the highlights here. So first, for Walk, Bike, Drive Safety Initiative, we have a number of different projects that we'd like to highlight. First being the CDBG funded sidewalk improvements. We also have the curb ramp improvements, Safe Streets and Roads for All, street light improvement, streets and sidewalk improvement, and lastly, we have the walk, bike, drive safety improvements. Another set of projects that I'd like to highlight are the community projects. Here we have the 47th to Taylor Linear Park, the 54th Place Pocket Park and Tot Lot, Adam and Emily Plummer Park, bus stop improvements. We have the community garden, the electric charge station, flood mitigation for rain garden, the Mount Rose Park, the Natoli Place, Lafayette Avenue redesign, pollinator garden, public Wi-Fi, town center trail parking lot redesign, the town center underpass, the town common seal, and lastly is the welcome signage. So for fiscal year 2025, these are some of the projects that we'd like to highlight that are taking place in the current fiscal year 2025 budget year.
Gentry, can I interject just for one moment? CDBG stands for the Community Development Block Grant. It's federal funds that come to us through Prince George's County. I just wanted to share what that acronym stood for. Thanks, Gentry.
No problem. Next part of the presentation covers the fiscal year 2026 budget timeline and opportunities for input. So back in November of the fiscal year for 2025, November 25th, we had a Mayor and Council work session presentation where we covered the budget development and preparation calendar. December 16th, we had a Mayor and Council work session presentation that covered the budget assumptions and then capital improvement project pipeline. We have 2 monthly finance presentations at the council work session and the legislative meetings for the months of November and December. The next portion that we'd like to highlight in January coming up is for January 27th at the Mayor and Council work session. We will be covering the fund balances and initial year-end projections, as well as the priorities, challenges, and guidelines. For the month of February, on February 3rd, we have a Mayor and Council legislative meeting. There we'll cover the capital improvement project updates, as well as the projections. On February 24th of 2025, we will have a Mayor and Council work session meeting as well. We will cover the revenue for fiscal year 2025, estimated actuals, and then we'll have the 2026 projections. And lastly, we will be presenting the constant yield notice because we will receive that in February as well. In March, we have 3 sessions to discuss the budget. The first being on the 3rd of March. We have a mayor and council legislative meeting. We will cover the expenditures for the current fiscal year for 2025, estimated actuals, and we will present the expenditures for fiscal year 2026, the projections that we have for 26. On the 18th of March, 2025, we have the State of the Town presentation where we provide a budget overview. And March 24th, 2025, we have the final mayor and council work session where we will present the budget updates and adjustments. The month of April is a bit of a busy month for us. On the 4th of April, we have a mayor and council work session. Here we will be presenting a summary of the fiscal year 2026 proposed operating and capital improvement budget. On the 19th, we have a budget public hearing where we will review the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget and operating and CIP budget. The 24th, we will have another budget public hearing where we will again be reviewing the proposed fiscal year 2026 operating and CIP budget. And then the 26th will be the third review of the proposed fiscal year 2026 operating and CIP budget. On April 28th, excuse me, we will have the Mayor and Council special legislative meeting and work session. Here, review of edits to the proposed budget will be presented, as well as the introduction of the fiscal year 2026 operating and CIP budget tax rates ordinance. And then the final bit of presentations occur in May. On the 12th, we have a mayor and council legislative meeting. We will discuss the real property tax rate public hearing, and then any amendments to the fiscal year 2026 budget. And lastly, on the 19th, we have a mayor and council legislative meeting where we will have an adoption of the final fiscal year 2026 operating and CIP budget, as well as tax rate ordinance. So the next part of the presentation, I will be covering the building blocks for the budget, which we call the engaging community in fiscal planning. So the first building block that we have is the 5-year projections. Next is the conservative approach. We have guiding principles, fund balance goals, values, vision and commitment statements, debt service goals, and lastly, best practices. Excuse me. So for 5-year projections, we would like to keep all of our projections very high level. As we proceed with our 5-year projections, one of the key components is to make sure that we include some strategic decision making. And the last part of the 5-year projections is we want it to be from the long view. Next, we'd like to cover some of the TRP values. So some of the values as we proceed moving forward with the budget. The first is the Walk, Bike, Drive Safety Initiative. This is something that has been implemented in the previous fiscal year, but it's something that as we proceed moving forward with the budget, we have made sure to be one of our major values moving forward. The next part of the TRP values that we've included, diversity, equity, inclusion. We have housing and neighborhoods, sustainability, business and economic development, infrastructure, arts and recreation, community engagement and transparency, professional and well-trained employees, transportation, ethical governance, and then lastly, for TRP values, we have best practices, technology, and data. Moving forward, as we continue to move forward with the budget process, one of the major components that we have included is taking a conservative approach. And here on this slide, we have five elements that we'd like to um, highlight. First being is the fund. So fund services in the most efficient, effective manner. Um, as we proceed with our budget process, it's necessary for us to take a conservative approach. When we we must develop reasonable and defendable financial projections. When we streamline the streamline process, it must be smart. We must, and then fund. We must fund for the future. And lastly, we must invest in our infrastructure. So see, these are some of the key components as we move forward, taking that conservative approach. One part of the presentation that we'd like to highlight and is very important to us, we took a whole slide for it, is just to highlight the vision statement. So one thing that we take into consideration as we go through our whole budget process is the vision statement, which reads, the town of Riverdale Park will be the location of choice for residents, business, visitors, and employees. So as we move forward with the budget process, we just make sure to always keep in mind that the vision statement is, there for a reason. We want to make sure that it is considered and highlighted as we proceed with our budget process. Next, we always take into consideration is our guiding principles. So it's been highlighted before and it will be highlighted again. But some of the guiding principles that we have taken into consideration as we put together a budget is to listen, to study, and to be focused. The E to the 5, excellence in service. This is also one of the town's guiding principles. In many of the weekly meetings, this is something that we go over for consistency to make sure that everybody is on the same page. We have the budget committee, the leadership team, and the staff team for collaboration. So as we proceed with the budget process, we take into consideration not only the budget committee, but also the leadership team and the staff team. And lastly is balance more than the numbers, which is pretty much just taking into consideration more than just the numbers. But again, we always go back to either 5, listen, study, and be focused, but it's more than just the numbers as we put together the budget process. Next that we'd like to go over, as we put together a presentation, are debt service goals. So first, we'd like to always leverage any existing debt that the town has. We'd like to increase pay-go, which is to use monies in the town's current budgets. And additionally, as we proceed, we continue to like to add no new debt. So those are our debt service goals. Next, I'd like to just go over some of the actual fund balances. So we are getting a little bit deeper here, but what you see here listed on the screen are the actual fund balances. When we put together the audit, we put together the budget. these are the fund balances, and it is highlighted in our budget, that you can see. Each fund has its own balance, um, to fund, various items for the budget. First being the general fund reserve. Um, we have the OPEB fund. We have an economic development fund, a community development fund, health and wellness fund, special revenue fund, debt service reserve fund, and lastly, we have the capital improvement fund. Um, and as we go through the budget, just to make, a bit of a note here, our CIP capital improvement fund, this is where all of the projects are funded, and the general fund reserve. These are our biggest funds on the fund balance, and this can be found on the fund balance sheet in the budget. Um, so next we have best practices.
Sorry, Gentry, could you please spell out OPEB for everyone, what that stands for, please? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So while we have our general fund reserve and our OPEB fund, economic development, the OPEB fund, this is where, and I have actually highlighted here all the funds that we have. So within our general fund reserve fund, and thank you, Jessica, for bringing this up. One thing I'd like to highlight here, because we are actually finalizing our whole budget process, is that so our OPEB fund, our community development fund, and our general fund are actually all included in the general fund reserve. I might be getting a little bit into the weeds here, but that's just how we've broken it down. The economic development fund, health and wellness fund, special revenue fund, TIF, and debt service fund, capital improvement fund, all of these are actually considered separate funds. Um, but the way that we've broken it down, and that just for organizational purposes, the community development and OPEB fund are actually part of the overall general fund. Um, and the OPEB, which stands for other post-employment benefits, is how we break things out, in a way to organize and to break things down separately, not only for ourselves, but for staff and um, for the community to see as well. Um, so we have specific, grants that we write outside of the community development fund, as well as keeping a specific amount in our OPEB fund, that we always keep funded. Um, and then, we're able to branch that out for the economic, health, special revenue, debt service, and then capital improvement funds. So we also like to highlight some of the best practices as we proceed with the whole budget process. Um, First being the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officials Association. Um, so we have been awarded the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for, I believe it's 6 years. Paul, is it 6 or 7? I can't remember, but we have been consistent with receiving that award. But as we proceed with the budget, they have very strict budget presentation guidelines that we adhere to. The next best practice that we have listed here is the Maryland Department of Legislative Affairs and Local Government Finances. Next is the Government Accounting Standards Board, which is otherwise known as GASB. And then the Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, or GAAP. And lastly, we also adhere to the Maryland Municipal League, which provides sample policies um, when it comes to producing this budget. All right, so next what I'm going to cover are some of the major categories as we put together the budget. So the first is operating revenue. And in operating revenue, our biggest category is local taxes. It's where the majority of the budget comes from. Next, we have administrative fees. We have fines and forfeitures, licenses and permits, intergovernmental revenues, other revenues, which might be miscellaneous, and then lastly, we include the cable TV franchise. Another portion we like to highlight are the operating expenditures. So, as we put together the budget, we also have major categories that the budget is divided into. The categories that comprise of most of the budget are the salaries, wages, benefits, and overtime. We also have contractual services, regular operating expenditures, weather response services, municipal center buildings, community events, and lastly, break it down into community grants. We also break down our capital improvement projects. We do have a very large amount of projects, and we've been able to break them down into specific categories. The major categories that we've broken the CIP projects are into the Walk, Bike, Drive Safety Initiative. We have community projects, building renovations, technology upgrades, public safety acquisitions, vehicle furniture and fixture acquisitions, streetlight acquisitions, furniture and equipment acquisitions, and lastly, we have our road and sidewalk construction. So at this point of the presentation, I'd like to take any questions or any comments from the community. We'd like to be more of a conversation. Anything that comes to mind, any comments regarding the budget or anything that anybody would like to potentially see. We're all ears, and we'd be happy to hear.
We have a hand raised, Gentry. Evan, would you like to provide your comment or ask your question?
Hi, thank you, Jessica. My name is Evan Waxler. I'm president of the Madison Hill Homeowners Association. I have a request from some of my residents to add a street light to a spot on the on one of our streets that is fairly dark. I noticed that if I'm reading everything correctly, that this would be a subsection of the capital improvement fund. How would we go about making a request to have something like a new streetlight be added to the budget?
Sure. I can answer that question unless another member of the team would like to do that. Evan, you can simply send that via email to the community_input email address, and we'll be happy to add that. But if we already included it in our budget for fiscal year 2025, it might be something that's a very simple add. So go ahead and send an email with the location of where the residents are asking for a street light, and we will look to incorporate that into one of our projects that we have. Typically, streetlight projects are a lot of different areas in town. So please go ahead and send that to us through community_input.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments or questions? This was a great presentation to give you kind of a framework for how the budget is developed. Laura, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm Laura Katz. I live in Ward 1. And I just had a question. I have some things I wanted to suggest for the budget, but also I have a question regarding the increase in it's property tax, I believe, that we're going to have, right? That has been approved for. I think it's going to garner something like $300,000 some to add to the budget within the walk, drive, bike area. I believe that was the main purpose for the increase. And so I was just curious, is there anything specific project-wise that can be shared? Because you did mention that one grant program that's going to supplement walk, bike, drive. Is there any specific use for that increase in taxes that we're going to be paying?
So
Project?
Director Barnes, if I can take a shot at this and then, so good morning, Ms. Katz, and happy Saturday morning. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for the question. So the tax increase was approved by the mayor and council last May and was already implemented. The goal is to have additional funds for walk, bike, drive related projects. So staff are looking at a variety of things that need done. But specifically, the mayor and council also created the Walk, Bike, Drive Safety Advisory Committee. And that committee has come up with some ideas. And actually, I believe at their next meeting, they're going to formulate a recommendation for road improvements along Riverdale Road at the various intersections. And so we need to wait for their recommendation back to staff. We'll take it to the council. We'll talk to the traffic engineers. And but I would think that at least part of the funds would go towards that project.
Okay, thank you. So obviously there's nothing specific just yet, but there's definitely folks working on use of that money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I'll give someone else an opportunity to share their thoughts, and then I can certainly share some more thoughts later.
So if I could address Ms. Katz's question, one of the differences between sort of the federal budget and the town budget is that we have carryover from year to year for projects. And so even if the funds for the walk, bike, drive improvements are not spent in this fiscal year, are not obligated in this fiscal year, then we can carry that over for projects in the future. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. Do we have any other questions or comments from the community? If not, Laura, if you'd like to continue.
Okay, thank you so much, Jessica. And if people do join, obviously, I know you'll keep track of that and quiet me down as appropriate. So just some thoughts for consideration for the budget. The dog park, I know that's it's a specific relationship between the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning and the town with regards to the maintenance of the dog park and any amenities added to the dog park. But so, and I understand that, you know, it's not just a kind of a cut and dry thing. What the town can do to the dog park, they have to collaborate with the county. But the water fountain there is just in terrible shape. And even when it was working, it was not as useful. The design of it was not useful for filling a dog bowl. It was literally a water fountain. And I know that, you know, obviously a water bill has to be paid for, you know, for all the water that's used at the dog park. But it would really be nice to see, it's all rusted out now. And obviously it had a leak this year. And thankfully the town was very helpful in getting that fixed. But that was a lot of wasted water for a lot of months, actually. But it is in terrible shape. Would love to see that replaced. It's critical, you know, for the users of the park. It really, it's just not only for the people, because it is important to have a water fountain for the people, but it's also important to have a source of water for the dogs. There's not much tree cover in the dog park. It gets really hot there in the summer, things like that. Also, the dog park could really use, I think it would be helpful to have some kind of signage where the town could communicate more specifically to users of the dog park, not just have the general rule signs and things like that. But there's times when the dog park was going under repairs, and just a way to communicate to people that are physically at the dog park, some kind of thing that you could put signs, you know, messages in, and or that would communicate to users how to communicate with the town regarding the dog park. Also storage box, considering using wood chips for portions of the dog park instead of trying to maintain the grass, which it's a challenge for a dog park, I know. And our dog park is so large, and it's well used, by the way. I've been going lately, and there's a lot of regulars that go and a lot of other people that come, and we all really enjoy the dog park very much. But there's some things I think that could just make it even a better amenity, and visually even a better amenity for the town. Wood chips might be one of those things in part of the dog park. Storage box for some of the toys. Someone brought a bunch of stuffed animals, and just there must have been 15 stuffed animals, and stuffing went everywhere. And it was, it's like, yeah, thank you, but no thank you. But there's a lot of balls and things that people bring. People, they use the park the way they want to, because I think that the town could have more of a presence there, as far as, here's a box to put things that maybe you don't want the dogs to play with, like jugs to hold water. People bring in jugs of water, because obviously the water's turned off at certain times of the year, so the pipes won't freeze. We understand that, but even signage that explains that would be nice. Things like that. Okay, thank you. I went on about the dog park. I think so that there could also be educational information posted on this signage, like pictures of dog communication styles and things, and really ways to help the dog park even be a better neighbor to the people that live nearby, to really educate people about dogs. All right. Anyone else have anything? I have another topic. Town hall. I know y'all are getting excited. Could get opened again and use it, and it's gonna be so cool inside and really nice things. There's a beautiful green space now in front of a beautiful patio for the use of staff and people and all that wonderful stuff. That green space round looks like it's going to be grass at this moment. So I just have a vision. Whoa, would that be really cool to be a native plant garden there as well? And the town is doing great jobs establishing new pollinator gardens all over town. Wonderful. But boy, that's prime real estate right there. Would be just a really, I don't know if you've seen Joe's Emporium, but they have a beautiful native plant garden in front of their place. And wouldn't that be nice to actually, make our town hall even look more beautiful than it already is looking? Native garden in front of town hall. Okay. Idea for an overstory tree grant for assessment, to give advice on assessment and maintenance of large overstory trees in town that are on residents' properties. Because a lot of times people don't know what they have. They don't know there's a problem with it. They get concerned because tree branches fall. And the overstory trees are ones that we can't replace in our lifetime. Once they come down, they come down. So just kind of like the, almost like your accessory structures grant kind of thing, I don't know. Another idea. I think the town has done this in the past, but this would be another thing moving forward, because I don't know if it's not current anymore, is an energy audit, to have an energy audit done. And I know we've just had renovations done to the town hall that are, I think some of them are, those renovations are energy minded, with automatic lights going on and off and that kind of thing inside. But to really get a grasp of that baseline of where we're at now, with how much energy we use to heat and cool our buildings, the water that we use, etc. The good news is there's a lot of funding sources for things like that. I just have to mention the Sustainable Maryland just started an action grants program up to $20,000, because our town is certified by Sustainable Maryland. We are eligible to apply for up to $20,000 for sustainable actions, of which the first inaugural round of that funding was just released, and an energy audit was funded, as well as Big Belly solar compost bins were funded out in Laurel. So a lot of the things that the town might want to do potentially in the budget there could be funding that could be applied for those kinds of things, and just want to make sure the town is well aware of that. I'll take a breath. Evan, anything else? Anyone else join from the public? Okay. I think I'm really happy with our town, and that I think it's the Hyattsville CDC has this art project going on where we get sculptures all throughout town, and they change up every year. So cool. And personally, my personal opinion is the sculptures have gotten better and better and better each year. This is like the coolest round ever that we have. We have a freaking dragon in Mabel Munch Park right now, which I'm in love with. The town graciously bought the Bee Hotel a couple years ago. Hasn't been displayed yet. Looking forward to that getting displayed at some point. But I don't know if the town is interested in any of the other art that's out there this year. Dragon. That they might want to retain in the town and, you know, purchase from these wonderful artists that are putting together some wonderful art. And that's not the only one. There's a really cool one at the end of Riverdale Road too. I like too. It's like a world, but it's made out of ducks. So if someone has not seen all of there's probably, do you all know there's like 5 or 7 pieces of sculpture throughout town? I want to say 5, something like that. But if you go to the Hyattsville CDC site, you can see them all listed there. I don't know, the town hasn't promoted lately, maybe a map of where they are or something, maybe promote that program. But obviously keep that going. I don't know if that costs the town to do that, but okay, to keep that going. I really enjoy it. Thank you for that. And to occasionally maybe grab a piece of art that looks really nice sitting where it's sitting, or we could put it somewhere else. I think a really awesome place to put some art would be the circle at the end of Lafayette, with that beautiful native pollinator garden that y'all have installed. I think it's a great location to put something, not a tree, because that would shade out the pollinator garden, but a piece of art in the middle there would be really cool to rival what we have in Bear Square, which is also awesome. Of course, Bear Square. We need more Bear Square around town, I think. That kind of thing, where people can refer to locations in town. And so, which obviously means we definitely would want something on the east side of town too. We've got that wonderful new park, the children's park, and maybe something around that. A piece of art where people could refer to the park by the art would be really cool. Also, maybe a grant program for the businesses in town to put up more murals. I know 250 Barbecue has a nice mural on the side. I know Riverdale Park Station has a nice butterfly murals, has some murals, but funding for other businesses maybe to put some murals on their businesses as well. Funding for a small composting facility where the community garden and the food forest are. The compost could be used for the community garden and food forest. It's not like, I know that in our current budget, we've budgeted for a composting curbside pickup program that I believe is hopefully going to start sometime in this year. But in addition to that, to maybe have some active composting going on in town for town use in town gardens. And that maybe town residents, you know, could contribute to, or town businesses could contribute to. We have so many wonderful restaurants in town. There's probably a lot of organic waste that could be collected from our town businesses, saving them the money of having them paying the tipping fees to get that stuff taken away. And maybe the town could use that. I know in Greenbelt, the Greenbelt Co-op grocery store was at one point donating their expired produce to the composting that Greenbelt does. So there's kind of a model there. Oh, okay. And I'll take a breath, but I do have one other thing, which is probably my most constant pet peeve that I'll talk about. And okay, so my last thing, I know y'all are chomping at the bit. My last thing is electronic message boards. So especially with Town Center, the renovations that happened, I don't know if we're going to have like a window, but once again, if you go to Greenbelt, you'll see that they, next to the movie theater there, they have big, huge monitors, TV monitors inside the building. That, I mean, it's a monitor. All of the beautiful work that you all are doing with messaging on Facebook and Instagram and all those other things, you know, putting together beautiful flyers and all sorts of great information. This is a digital age. It is so easy to just be able to have a message board that's a monitor that's hooked to the internet that our staff can update from their desk. That way you don't have to go out, and you can keep messages current. That's the biggest thing, is I see a lot of really outdated messages on the 2 large I call them like construction signs that people put when roads are, they're not as, those signs aren't particularly attractive. They're getting the job done, they're communicating, but they're not kept current. They very often have expired messages on them. So I wonder about the welcome signage that I know council went through a process of evaluating our welcome signage, and now we've got this gorgeous new town seal and all that stuff. But I'm wondering if we can up maybe a couple of the welcome signage points with some kind of electronic or digital technology that would inform people in a more current, live kind of way about, yeah, you're in town and this is how you can get to the website, or you're in town and here's what's going on here today, or something like that. Sure would be nice. I don't think it's like, I'm not actually saying anymore like Edmonston, some other towns have these big structures, these big brick made structure with the monitor in it. And, those cost tens of thousands of dollars. I believe I was talking to Ivy Lewis about, can we get a big electronic board? Hyattsville has one down Route 1. But I think as simple as a monitor either in a building or in an enclosed thing, that now that we have Wi-Fi, wonderful thing. People don't know about it yet. We've got Wi-Fi in town center. That hasn't been communicated out so much, but town center, definitely you could install something that could easily connect to the internet that you all could, I would think, easily update from your desk. So still hoping for some kind of a digital electronic messaging in a couple places around town. And oh, one other thing. How about an award for the business that has the most sustainable aspects to it? You could have that, maybe every 6 months or maybe every year, the most sustainable business. Oh, they have native plants outside. Oh, they've got solar panels on their roof. Oh, they're composting their organic waste. Give them a little award of some kind, a little monetary award or some other kind of award that would be of value to them. Thank you. I really appreciate this platform to be able to just kind of get it all out, I don't expect to see any or all of it in the budget, but I do appreciate y'all listening, and I love the smiley face of our town manager as I was reading off those things.
Well, Ms. Katz, I really like a lot of your ideas. And I did think when you were mentioning to have some sort of an award program, like the Riverdale Park Sustainability Awards. But wondering if we can work collaboratively with the Green Team, and maybe the Green Team actually coordinate the application and review and recommendation, and we can put some money aside for something like that. And
thank you. Yeah, I think we could be convinced to do that easily. Yes.
Yeah. So let's have a conversation about that. And but I think the more that we can promote sustainability, the better the town will be as community. And so I'm really kind of excited about that idea.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you so much, John.
Director Barnes.
Do we have any other comments? I've taken lots and lots of notes. I started on a sticky note, which was a mistake because now I've got 10 all over the place. So, but we're really eager to hear all sorts of things from the community. It's really important for us to hear these ideas. Some of these things we have in the works we'll share those as the time comes, but some of these were new ideas for us, and we will definitely talk about these as a team and see how we can make that happen. I don't see anybody else from the community other than Evan. If you have anything else to share, please do. This is a perfect opportunity. Anything you're thinking about for the budget, please share it with us. All right. Well, we like to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Are there any other comments that we'd like to share? I know we have members of the council. I didn't want to leave anybody out if anyone has anything else they'd like to share.
A quick
All
query, if
right.
I may.
Well, Councilman, go right ahead. Yes, sir.
Thank you. The schedule that Director Jones was presented, that's going to be available website, social media pages, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, we have a section of the website that is the fiscal year 2026 budget prep. So there's the list of dates, and then we have links to the presentations and the videos, so you can see it there. It's under finance services, but we also have a link to it in the news section. So yes, it is on the website, and we'll continue to share the schedule. I believe it'll be printed in the crier this month also.
And it's also in the electronic calendar too.
It is.
Great. Okay.
It's probably listed as the mayor and council meetings, but I can add the additional comments to it.
I think
I
that would
think
be
Laura
good.
shared a link for us. Thank you. All right. Any other comments today? Well, thank you all for joining us for our first community conversation of 2025. I think there's lots of good information shared. Our next community conversation will be held on Saturday, February the 22nd at 9:30, same time, different link, but same time. And this will be talking about the town election, 2025 town election. So the Board of Elections will be with us that day. And that's another open conversation and an opportunity for questions and comments. Thank you all for spending your Saturday morning with us, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.
Thanks to everyone.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
all very much.